Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 15 of the Football Uncensored podcast. As usual, I'm joined by none other than John Sitton. Hello, John. How are you this fine evening, this snowy evening?
Yeah.
How's it going?
All right, Joe. Yeah, good. Glad to see you're back up and about.
Yeah, back up and about. Yeah, I think somehow via Zoom, you somehow gave me the lurgy, and I was off for a week just after you had been. So, but I didn't have COVID, but nonetheless, feel ready to go.
Yeah.
I'll say you look like you're fighting fit a bit now, John. You're back.
Yeah, I'm
back
getting
to your
there.
best.
She just said to me, "That's enough now." I weighed myself today. I think I put. I think it's just under £6. She reckons it's just under £7.
Cool.
So like she's saying, I told Porkies about me former weight. You know what I mean? She said, "That's enough now. Don't put no more back on. Stay as you are." But I've been out walking, doing a few, doing me groundwork, doing me bits and pieces in the home gym I got in the garage.
Yeah.
To try and get some strength back from the dreaded Kung Flu.
Right. Well, without further ado, let's have a chat about the old footy then.
It's been a good week. It's been a good week, isn't it, with the football? It's been a good week.
That's been a good week. Interesting times, you know. I think there's a few big key moments of the last week or so. And maybe the first one to talk about is Liverpool. We won't go in order of the games. I think we should just talk about Liverpool. What's happened to the club? Where do you see the issues? Why has it happened? And how can they rectify it? Can it be rectified? Can they finish in the top four? A few questions there related to Liverpool.
Yeah. Well, unless they pick up soon, I think like I've said earlier, like I fancied them to retain the title way back when, months ago. But I said it's just like from the Ministry of State and the obvious. If you finish above Liverpool, you'll probably win it. I wouldn't go with what they said last night on Match of the Day 2 that it's over. Although, you know, City do look like they're in a very, very healthy position, especially with a game in hand. I think it's up to United now and maybe Chelsea to push them all the way. But sticking to specifics, Liverpool, you can't. Brighton, midweek, they played out of their skin. Right, so they're obviously at the bottom and they're fighting for survival. They treated it like almost like a one-off, maybe a cup semi-final. They played with a freedom. They played without any sort of tension. They looked very relaxed, and they just got in amongst Liverpool and attacked them. And then since 1980 something, they got their first victory at Anfield. And then yesterday was like 3 on the bounce. Right? Factors we know, and it's a well-trodden path now with regards to the back four. And I want to come to something like that rankles with me, and it's very. I think it's very relevant. That's the word I'm looking for. With regards to the goings on there and what I want to say. But when you look at the thing, it's a well-trodden path. Everyone going on about certain players missing, etc., etc. But the brief glimpse I saw on social media post-match when Roy Keane was castigating Liverpool and Graham Souness threw one in, turned around and he said, well, when they got hammered at Aston Villa 7-2, he said that the full complement of back four players, or the full complement, he said Van Dijk was playing that day. Which sometimes you need a little nudge, you need a little reminder. I was quite surprised by the fact. So we're going down a well-trodden path there. The players that have come in terms of the kids, I've been there, probably before their time and or maybe not up to it. Same sort of thing happened to me at Chelsea when they sold off what was the family silver, and you had players who were cheating, they didn't want to train, they didn't want to play, they were feigning injury, etc. And treating the club like a joke and treating the club's survival in the first division like a joke. So I got the nod ahead of me time. Well, that looked to be the case for the kid at the back. I think he played number 40 odd. I looked at Alexander Arnold. I think the alarm bells would be ringing for Southgate now. He got absolutely shredded by Raheem Sterling. They've obviously identified him. Yeah, fantastic game forward, relax. He's got this lovely sort of languid style. He puts a lovely shape on the ball when it goes into the box. But I'm looking at him defending yesterday. I thought to defend him, not to beat about the bush and put too fine a point on it. It would have embarrassed an under 13 in a trial game. Just the way he just jumped in, dived in, got beat too easily, got caught too square on, wasn't on his toes, wasn't jockeying, wasn't trying to dictate to Sterling whether he's going to go out, like as in, if I'm defending you, I'm going to try and bend me run and dictate that you go down the line, or bend me run and dictate that you come inside, which you probably wouldn't do while he's on the left coming in on his right foot, which is his favourite foot. The goalkeeper had an absolute trauma. He had a Lionel. But here's the thing. This is the thing. When I looked at the team sheet, this is what I mean by relevant, and the fact that it's the same game, and the fact that they haven't reinvented the wheel, and the fact that despite having a record-breaking season, I think he's a magnificent manager. I think he's a great personality. I like his effervescence on the touchline. I like his passion. I could not understand, and I still don't get it. And I had the situation myself at a couple of clubs, namely Gillingham and Orient. And I just had correspondence with one of my old managers actually over the weekend. Frank Clark sent me a very, I was actually very shocked and surprised to get an email on Saturday night while I was sitting there relaxing with my missus. But that's another story. I do not get the fact, Joe, why a manager, and particularly under Keith Peacock at Gillingham, I do not get the fact why a manager would weaken two areas of the field to compensate for one area of the field.
You said that before, yeah.
Yeah. Does that make sense? You know,
yeah,
we know we know they've got problems at centre back.
Yeah.
We know they've got problems at centre back. Right. And sometimes you can be like I was, you can be too good a professional for your own good. And the fact that you've been coached and you've been brought up, and people forgot, or they remembered when it suited them, at one of the best academies in the country, if not Europe at the time, Chelsea. And I was there for 6 years, and I was taught habits that stayed with me right through my whole career. So I had like good all-round ability, which I happen to believe ties in with like all the ideas I picked up from way back when, and how to improve the syllabus at the FA, to, for the want of a better word, produce or manufacture better players, better all-round players. But the point being, I was absolutely playing out of my skin, Mr. Consistency, absolutely magnificent, and a rock-solid partnership with Steve Bruce at centre-back. And we had a fantastic left-back in Mickey Adams, who went on to play at high level as well as Brucey. We had Johnny Sharp, who, like me, had come down from a higher level. He came from Southampton. And then there's a couple of injuries, and then all of a sudden what happens is Peacock starts moving it around, the same as Klopp's done, and he's disturbed the back four to compensate for either a full-back or a midfield position. He said to me, can you do me a job at right back, or can you do me a job at left back, or can you do me a job in midfield? All of which I did, because I was a consummate professional. And then what happens is you get penalised for it. And the team, I think the team gets penalised for it, because you've had like a magnificent leader and performer and a very consistent level in Henderson. And all of a sudden now he finds himself with the other midfield at centre-back, which I don't understand, other than the fact that he tried to bed in a couple of kids.
Well, I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, they just weren't up to it.
No, that's the best he's got, presumably, because he did try that Reece Williams, and he's tried a couple. And they've got skinned, didn't they?
Yeah, Reece Williams, he was very naive. And you don't know what's going on at the academy. But he was making mistakes and getting caught the wrong side, like with the stuff you'd normally associate with a kid who's not been taught the game.
And to be honest, I guess it's not his. Obviously, it kind of is his fault. But really, it's the fault of the recruitment at Liverpool. You know, I was talking yesterday on Sky. Souness was talking about when you're at your height, the height of your powers, you invest, and you invest big. And you know, it really doesn't seem like they've gone on and invested like a Barcelona would have done if they won the Champions League, or they won the league, or Real Madrid would have done, or Milan would have done, or whatever, or PSG would have done. They haven't gone out and gone all in, you know, and tried to maintain the level. It seems like it was almost admitting defeat, in the sense it's a flash in the pan, and then it's back to where they were, you know.
Yeah, Joe, there's a couple of things to take into consideration. At the end of the day, if I could offer like an alternative view, obviously I would do, and I'm not backward in coming forward when doing it, regardless of whether it's Souness or whoever. But I can't argue with him. I think he's spot on. Having said that, brings me to the second point. You don't know the financial constraints that Klopp might be under. They might have said that, like that.
Well, no.
Initially,
but is that the ownership of the club though? Because
almost
sob financial constraints.
It's going on all over the gaff. So it's going on all over the gaff now. It's just the game. The game. I think it started with when he read the script, Keegan. The game in this country is, dare I say it, it's borderline been ruined to the detriment of the supporters. And I even had a thing myself where I still maintain that basically all I wanted was to stop a football club from being a retirement home for certain other clubs at Leyton Orient, and then players who were past their sell-by turning up at Leyton Orient and using it as an ATM in the twilight of their career. And I wanted more value for money for the football club and its supporters. I wanted to try and protect the supporters from cheats in training, from cheats in games, from people who just bottom line, in inverted commas, just weren't good enough for the level. That's all I was trying to do, was protect Leyton Orient supporters in the respect that they would get value for money. And I think that's the same throughout the country. Now, going back to Keegan, I think he read the script, and your net income should be allocated, or let's say your net budget should be allocated. And I happen to believe for decades now, the Bundesliga blueprint, because I think it's salt the wheat from the chaff with regards to coaches and managers, right? Who's up to it and who ain't. And I think someone like Moyes is showing quite clearly that he's been up to it. And like he said in an article in the paper the other day, he doesn't really want to go down the route of short-termism, etc., right? So all those factors. But if you say, well, 65 to 70%, right? So I'm being a little bit flexible, of your net income is your budget for transfers, etc., then it's up to the people to spend it, who are in charge, to spend it wisely, whether they be a director of football, technical director, in collusion with a manager, like they've got at Manchester City, which is the other end of the polar opposite end of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With regards to financial fair play and a country's GDP being part of their income, etc. Right. But the point being, what's happened now for a long time, and it will continue to happen, a club's income will be seen, because it's coming from football supporters. And I've always maintained two or three things, without going too far off piece, that without things like football, ergo sport in particular, gambling, alcohol, drugs and tobacco, this country would be in the midst of like civil war and rioting, because it's a distraction. Now, the flip side of that coin, it's a perennial tax. And it used to be a perennial tax on the working man, because it was like disposable income that he would use to amuse himself, right? So the owners have read the script, like Brady said about West Ham. Well, they follow the brand. It's all about the brand. Once you're attached to the brand, you become a supporter. I'll contradict it, because I started at the Arsenal, but I ended up playing for different clubs, and your allegiances lie with sort of a professional whim. You know what I mean? They're based on a professional whim, but like she's quite right, and they're basically a supporter who supports that club for life is an income stream for that club. Well, going back to the original point, that should be recycled and thrown back at the supporter in terms of, right, we're going to try and buy players, produce players to make a better team, a better football club, a better organisation that's going to try and win things. You know what I mean? You've got clubs in the Premier League now. Well, a classic example where I started with Keegan, when he walked away from it. He said, I can't manage here with that, man. You've got a football club like 40-odd thousand absolute raving, passionate lunatics every week, and they ain't won something since, I was thinking the other night. What is it? It's like, I think it's the Fairs Cup in 1969. I might be a year out, but that's the last time they and at the time it was perceived as Mickey Mouse silverware. I know they got to a cup final against Liverpool, but they got shredded. You know what I mean? So the point being, you don't know Klopp's financial constraints. The Septics might have said, no, you've got no more money to spend.
Well, I mean, I was just going to ask you actually, in terms of this new way, it seems like there's a real rub and a contradiction in terms from owners that want a return on their investment, and then using that money or using the return on the investment to go back into the club in order to maintain consistent success.
Yeah.
And yeah, there could be an argument that because they won the Champions League, because they won the league, mass income came to the club.
Yeah.
Siphoned off as a return on the investment.
Yeah, but before that, he laid out big money on Van Dijk, 75 mil. He laid out big money on the goalkeeper. I know it was from the sale. A lot of it was from the sale of the geezer at the Barca, wasn't it? But he still,
Suarez,
he bought the geezer from
Coutinho.
Yeah. But he's bought a goalkeeper. He bought the centre half, and he bought a couple of midfielders. He bought in who else did he bought in the geezer from Wolves recently, 20 mil, or whatever it was, 20 odd mil.
Jota,
yeah. So they might have just said that's it. You know, what I mean, you've got to make do what you've got. What it confirms, what it outlines, is the fact that whether it's Klopp or anybody else, right? You're only as good as your staff and players. Right, so the staff obviously can't find a way, whether it's the staff alongside him or whether it's the staff underneath at academy level. They're obviously not producing first-team quality footballers for a club as big as Liverpool, 5 times European champions.
I think we mentioned this before, though, John. You know, they've had that front three for 4.5 years. They haven't changed. They haven't changed one person. And you look at Man United. They bought Edison Cavani. He's 33. You know, nearly 34. Geezer's fit as anything, scoring goals. You know, class. You know, he remains an elite level player. He could have been a perfect replacement for someone like Firmino. Although he wouldn't have been there for longevity, they could have got a decent 2 seasons out of him. And just like you said before, which I think is a brilliant analogy, shuffle the pack. Just mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's it just.
So the thing is, you saying that, Joe, you then got the the thing that sort of contradicts that is at City. They've had Jesus for years. They've had Aguero for years. They're waiting for him to come back from COVID. They've had Sterling for a few years now. So that you could argue the fact that they've got the same front three, same front two.
Well, I only know this because I bloody do the fancy dream team. He never plays the same team.
Yeah.
It's Mahrez, it's Sterling, it's Bernardo Silva. They're all. He's playing them so he's shuffling the pack week in, week out.
Yeah.
Whereas,
like I said earlier, the problem is people think that all these people have reinvented the wheel. I've always said that's how it should be. I've always said that in this country we're not. I'm not talking about coaches necessarily. Maybe just probably 90 to 95 out of 100. Excuse the heavy sarcasm, but like more importantly, the players. I've always said we're not tactically flexible enough. I think you should be able to, basically without tantrums and all that and histrionics from your players, you should be able to do what he does and change the team every week, every other week. You've got to give. It's all about giving the opposition problems. It's about giving them something to think about. It's about giving them marking problems. It's about, can you read? Which years ago they used to do, especially with a couple of coaches I played under. They'd see the team, they'd compare it to a previous team. This is when the team, this is literally where you've had your briefing in the hotel, you've had your briefing on the Thursday or the Friday when you're running through the opposition before you do take care of your own stuff and the rehearsal of your own stuff. And then they go, same team as 2 weeks ago. They'll play this system. He's the heavy hitter. He's the danger man with this. Watch him from set pieces. Blah blah blah, and it's sorted. You know what I mean? You can go out and knowing that you're mentally prepared. Now, what it is, a new era, a new dawn for a while now. When I started to take my badges at 28, I said, well, why not this? Why not this? Why not be able to change your formation? You've got to have the players to do it. Change your formation 3, 4, 5 times during the course of a game. So you're giving people problems. You're giving them marking problems. You're giving them pattern of play. They can't read your pattern of play. They've got those problems. And at the same time, there might be an occasion or two during the game where you have to change your formation to basically cancel them out and nullify any threat, right? And then you go back to what you do. You understand what I'm trying to say? That's where this is where he's blessed. This is where Guardiola's very blessed, well blessed.
What's the character? What's the common thread characteristic of players that you need in order for them to be able to cope with that level of interchangeability or tactical change throughout a game? Because presumably not all players could handle that. Presumably, certain players.
The common thread's easy. It's football intelligence, football IQ, they call it now.
How do you assess that? How would you assess that in a player?
Well, if it's a club like the setup I wanted at somewhere like the O's, then you know the kid or you know the person. You know them like the back of your hand, and you know whether they're capable. The only example I can give is, I mean, it sounds a little bit narcissistic, really, but like I had this situation at Chelsea coming through the ranks where people like Ken Shaletto, before him, Dario Gradi, but particularly Ken, they saw in me, and even Brian Eastick to a degree, in the football combination, when he took over, I can put him there and he'll handle it. Well, that comes born of, I think, the courage in your conviction of the education you've given them.
Oh, I heard somewhere Arsene Wenger used to do like a post-match chat with a player, each individual player, like 10, 15 minutes, and say, analyse the game. Tell me what you did well, tell me what you did wrong.
Yeah.
Apparently, maybe it was just the young players, but I thought, would that be a way to assess someone's football intelligence? How they actually do a post-match analysis of their performance?
Yeah, it could be, yeah. Yeah, it could be. But, I mean, what are you going to do? There's pluses and minuses to everything. You know what I mean? If someone does like a double step over and then just like dinks a ball into the... I'm going a bit thing now. You know, like they talk about this fucking corridor of uncertainty.
Yeah. Behind the back four, yeah.
I just call it hotspot.
Yeah.
I just call it hotspot. You know why? Because it's hot. It's red hot for the forward. I would never call it a corridor of uncertainty if I was coaching. Never. Because what seeds you sowing? Yeah, we know it's a corridor of uncertainty for a retreating back four, but it can also be a corridor of uncertainty for a forward who should be caving in on it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like coming in like a bulldozer with a Ferrari engine. Do you know what I mean? Coming in, smashing in with everything. To get a surface to the ball and get it in the back of the net. But then if you say it might pose a thing with a forward by, well, shall I go, shan't I? He ends up, maybe if he don't go, it's a missed opportunity. Like you see time and time again every week, where someone's read the script too late, they've made the run too late, and they don't connect with the ball. So I always call it hotspot. So yeah, if a player does that, you know what I mean, double step over a little dink, and you go, yeah, I did that well. You know, what I would suggest is maybe digging out stuff for analysis to put him on the spot with regards to, let's say Trent Alexander-Arnold, classic example yesterday. What do you think you did well here? How do you think you done here? And he's going to non-stop verbal for about 20 minutes. Yeah, I got caught 2 square on. Yeah, I dived in. Yeah, I never showed him one way or the other. I never bent me run when I approach. All the stuff that you coach a defender in the grid, and then when you drill a back four, if you get like a tricky dicky like Sterling or like Ronaldo and do step overs and go either way, what you do, and this is where Liverpool went wrong yesterday, what you do, and your mind's still racing, don't get me wrong, your mind is still making decisions at a fraction of a second, and the pitch is still changing every fraction of a second. But what you've got to have, and what I used to coach, and some players got it, some players didn't, some players thought I was talking bollocks. Right, this is where Liverpool went wrong yesterday. They never had a stillness. They never had a composure. Right? So, 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 even, Foden and all the rest of them, moving the ball quickly, Sterling moving the ball quickly, Manchester City players moving the ball quickly. Right, well, okay, they're moving the ball quickly, but there were a lot of occasions where they were doing no damage whatsoever. That's when you've got to have your stillness. So what you do as a defender, you retain your composure, and you don't do what they seemed too anxious to please, or too anxious to rush out, too anxious to close down at the wrong time. Consequently, you look particularly for a couple of the goals, defenders got isolated, right, which is what you coach in a small-sided game, right? When and where to dribble. And the first key is to isolate 1v1, right? So the defender's getting isolated, and then what happens is, so the City forward goes round him, and then all of a sudden another Liverpool player has got to come across. So what that does, that weakens another area. Then another Liverpool player's got to come across, and that weakens another area. Then he's got to come, that weakens another. You understand? So that's what I mean by stillness. That's what I mean by stillness. You keep your composure and you keep your shape. And there's a time to go, and the time to go is when you go together, right? And everything's bump, 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 and everything's bump, 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 bump in front, and it's compact. It's compact that way, and it's compact that way. And too often, yesterday, Liverpool players, they never had a stillness. They never had a composure.
And is that because they got two centre midfielders playing centre half, do you think?
Yeah, possibly, yeah. Yeah, because you've got, what it is, like there's three fantastic units when everybody's fit, right? So we know they're weakened in one unit, but this is what I said, where even the greatest can make mistakes. What he's done is he's weakened a unit to try and reinforce a weakened unit. So now you've weakened two units. You understand what I mean? Yeah. And what happens is, like, Joe, if you're a midfield player, I'm behind you, and you're going to have someone like Van Dijk does boss things well. You could see him giving verbal out. You know what I mean? So, like, if I'm behind you, I'll boss you whether to gun press or whether to sit in front on the centre forward's toes and screen the front. Right? False number 9. Right? More mythical cobblers. Right? Well, the bottom line is Foden's there. He's a focal point. Yeah. So he's not a false number 9. He's a
number 9.
He's a number 9. He's a focal point. You understand what I mean? I suppose what they mean by false number 9 is you've got a midfield player who's not used to having his back to the game or back to goal.
And they drop deep, I suppose, is what he's saying.
Yeah, and they just come deep. But then that's, I say, I'd pass him on to you. You know what I mean? So even if you handle 2, what I'm saying is it highlights the fact that there were times in games where I weren't bothered if it was 2v1 against you. You understand what I mean? I would pass him on to you, knowing that the danger is here, behind. The danger's in behind me, not behind you, because I'm behind you to protect you.
Exactly, yeah.
You understand what I'm trying to
say? I do.
Without drilling it, without showing you on a training pitch, I don't know if I'm articulating it well enough. But like,
no, you are. Well, I get it. It's the hot spots again, what you're talking about. At the end of the day, it's a relatively cool spot in front of you, because the hot spot's behind you, isn't it? Would that be fair to say?
Yeah. And what you do, and this goes back to what we said the other week when we were talking about Liverpool, couple of teams, 3 teams, 4, but they might have sussed them out because with regards to their forwards. Because I said to you last week, it's sometimes you press high, sometimes you concede the ball. And I won a game for Peter Shilton at Plymouth. He asked me. It was funny. When we used to play a team, whatever team we used to play, the following week Plymouth had that team. So he used to ring me, Shilton, for a scouting report. Right. So he fucking rings me and he said, yeah, thanks for that last week. I said, yeah, I noticed you nicked to win. And he said, yeah, to be fair, it was spot on. I said, yeah, well, Pete, just look, because I never had 70 caps for England, don't mean I'm a mug, you know what I mean? So I just said, you're welcome. You know, I said, like, create a Bollinger, no problem.
You should say, give us one of your hats.
Yeah, but what it was a case of whether he said no. He said it was very good because I said if I was you, I'd concede the ball. I said and then just retreat, maybe halfway in their half, let them roll the ball out. I said and then lock on from there. I said that's the way we did it. And he said he come in, he rang me up and said yeah, it worked well.
I said it's fascinating that. I just want to pull you back to your comment about football intelligence, and obviously I think Foden. Hopefully we can agree that he's got fantastic football intelligence, and he had an absolutely amazing game yesterday. And interesting that Pep played him in that number 9 position, false number 9, whatever you want to call it. But in terms of England, do you think hitherto, to date, our players, English players, or the players that were picked anyway, lacked football intelligence? Do you think players are coming through now that have more? And should it be those players that have the most football intelligence that should be on the pitch? And I mean Grealish, Foden, Maddison, maybe Mount, where they seem to have a lot more football intelligence than what we've had before. Does that make sense? And is Foden at the top of the list because of his age?
You're going to have problems in other areas. I'm waiting to see how we do possibly in the European Championship before I release my book, because I've got this bugbear about the syllabus, because I can cite proof of the pudding's in the eating. I can cite 2 things that highlight it with regards to the way Harry Kane marked from corners, and they both led to goals for the opposition. Right, so there's a clue about producing good all-round players, whereby forwards also know the job of the defenders. And if a defender gets in front of goal 15 yards out, they go, oh, that's just a centre-back shot. Well, it shouldn't be.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that will give you half a clue with regards to what I'm on about. If you want to highlight Foden, I think his 2 assets are, he's got unbelievably quick feet, and I think his main asset is his awareness. He's always looking. He's always like having a little look at the picture around him, and he's got I don't know, if we were both top drawer chess players, I'm not sure I'd want to play him, because it seems like he's all and I don't mind a game of chess, although I'm not very good, but like it seems he's always got the next move or 2 in his head, which is massive, you know.
And is that part of football intelligence?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, well, of course it is, without a doubt. Yeah, I think where he's concerned, I think Maddison comes in that category. I think Jack Grealish is a bit more. He's a mixture of the 2. I think he's a little bit more cavalier and off the cuff.
What about Sterling?
Well, he's very similar to Foden, isn't he? I just think
don't know.
He's like quick feet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He still makes some very. He still makes some poor decisions. He still makes some wrong choices. He's still sometimes very erratic with his finishing. And you think, he should have scored there. You know what I mean? And then what? He'll score a wonder goal to contradict it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, no, I mean Sterling. Yeah, no, he's one of them. He should be nailed on for the squad, I would think.
Okay. Well, should we go on to your former team, Chelsea? Obviously, got rid of Lampard, brought in the German Tuchel. He seems to have had a instant impact on the team. Seems to be quite a walk in the park managing the top Premier League side. Can't stop winning. Conceding, well, they conceded to Sheffield United, but certainly seems to be keeping clean sheets, and he's brought a few of the Germans back. What do you think of Chelsea? What do you think of the appointment? How do you think he's getting on? What's he done to change things around from your perspective?
Well, he had a good track record, didn't he? In terms of the way he organised teams and got them playing. I think that's a key factor. The fact that there's a couple of free Germans in there. It should be instant rapport with them. Is it Timo, Havertz and Rudiger?
Rudiger, yeah.
Yeah. So there should be, I think, and then there's a couple of others who played for him. He's one of them, the centre back, and he played for him at PSG.
Yeah, the Brazilian, yeah.
Yeah, the Brazilian.
Silva.
Yeah,
Ziyech might be German as well. They certainly come from a German club, I think.
Yeah.
Left-footed, but yeah, it's quite a strong German contingency at the club.
That's always a good base. If you've got like a common denominator, it's always a good starting point. If you're dealing with dimlos who don't talk the language that you speak, then you're an island to nothing.
He brought Alonso back, didn't he? Sorry to interrupt you, but he brought Alonso back, which from the cold. I mean, Chilwell was playing week in, week out, and then he's brought Alonso back, which is and again Rudiger. So he's kind of gone back to what the team was before Lampard took over.
Yeah,
would that be a strategy? Do you think? I mean, or is he just gone in and? I know it's hard for you to say, but
he come out with a thing, Joe, didn't he? Like everyone starts
from scratch. Yeah,
from scratch, clean slate, all the usual stuff that's trotted out. But he already would have had in his mind who he fancies, who he done. Chilwell is one of them. You don't know. Was it Marina's purchase? Was it Frank's purchase? Everyone at the time thought it was a decent purchase. Good buy.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe he's looked at it and he think like this, the way I want to play, particularly for one of the games where 2 defenders ended up scoring. I think it was one of them, Alonso and Azpilicueta. 10 points out of 12, isn't it?
Yeah. Another good finish from Mount yesterday. Going back to the England thing, does he still play? I mean, is he? Where would you rank them, the players we mentioned? So Mount, Maddison, Foden, Grealish. Who's, rank them in order, in your opinion. Who's the best to the worst? For England.
Yeah, they've all got different assets and attributes. It depends on the way you want to play.
Yeah.
Like I've said before, I'm not trying to avoid the question. I just think, in many, many respects, right? It's the best job, a national manager. It's the best job for the simple reason you can have an ideology and you can fit the players into that ideology. So my ideology with regards to being an absolute nightmare in terms of passing and movement and breaking other teams down and support around the ball and placement of players with regards to flooding the box when the ball comes into the box and or intricate combination play would be 5-diamond-1. And it would also be an absolute nightmare in retreat with regards to breaking us down, because you've got a double reinforcement down the middle of the pitch, and you've also got players in areas where you could double up when the ball's wide. So I would try and fit players into that ideology. In answer to your question, I'd probably go someone who's going to be dangerous week in, week out. Well, it's a toss-up between Foden and Grealish before Mount. I'd always go for someone like Foden for the simple reason, as the manager, I think he puts your mind at rest because of what I said. He does damage. He makes good decisions and he tries to do damage in the right areas of the field. Yeah. And at the same time, he's got this underlying insurance whereby he's got magnificent awareness and he moves the ball quickly. Or he does his tricks quickly. Do you understand? To try and go past people. Yeah. I see some similarities. He's like let me put it this way, he's like a quicker version of Jack Wilshere. Right? That's what I believe. He's like, he does everything at like maybe twice or three times the speed that Jack used to. And he does it in the right areas of the field. I've always had this thing about Jack picking up injuries because he was too giving. He was too generous. He was too he took too much responsibility with regards to receiving the ball. In bad areas for him where it was no problem for them to have a whack at him. You know what I mean? And
so do you think he should move on? Because it seems like that's probably because he's playing for a weaker club and he's trying to, probably arguably help keep. Well, he did help keep Aston Villa up last season. Should he move on? Yeah, should he move on to a bigger club so he can do it in the final third?
Well, he should have done. Yeah, he should have done. But people ain't like you look at the Spurs. They, one of my followers, Alison, like absolute mad for anything Spurs, and she said, I forget who the other player was, and she said they could have had him for a combined something like 45 million, Grealish for 25, and someone else for 20 or something 25. And you look at it now, you just think, they're like phenomenal.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Crazy. Because when you look at Spurs, they're just like, apart from Kane, Son, I would. It might sound harsh, but it's true. They've got absolutely no creativity at all in the middle third.
Yeah, who's to blame for that?
Academy, recruitment, transfer policy, who's in charge of transfer. Then they bring in a manager who's pragmatic, and he might put someone in who who's like they've built like a cruiserweight. They do their time of an Olympic sprinter. They put their foot in. They're powerful, but really and truly, they're leaving it to Harry Kane to come off deep, get on the half turn, and thread balls. You know what I mean?
Is Mourinho a dinosaur now? But
no,
from a managerial point of view.
No. I think it's like borderline cruel, disrespectful, overused word in the football industry. Because the flip side of the coin is, why wouldn't you utilise someone's experience like that? You know what I mean? I don't understand. It's like saying Bobby Robson was a dinosaur, and he took Newcastle to, I think, their highest league place in Premier League history. He was like, what was he, late 60s at the time?
Yeah, I suppose it's not his age. It's more just the tactics, in that he's not changed his tactics from the last three jobs he's had, which is Spurs.
Yeah, but neither did Bobby Robson. Neither is Roy Hodgson. He's kept Palace up how many thing. He keeps pulling, he keeps performing, makes Paul Daniels look like a mug. He keeps pulling rabbits out of hats every year. You know what I mean? Joe, no transfer activity, the odd like free transfer, the odd little buy, and he keeps them in the Premier League year after year after year.
But he's not in the same. He's not spoken of as one of the best managers in the world, whereas Mourinho is.
Well, then you contradicted yourself, haven't you? He can't be both. He can't be a dinosaur and one of the best managers in the world.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's
tactics.
Can he be described as one of the best managers in the world? Given the last 3 clubs he's been to, Man United didn't really do nothing. Chelsea before that finished mid-table.
The only way's down, isn't it? The only way's down. I ain't being funny. The only way's down, and he's you know, he went off the boil at Chelsea. He supposedly, in inverted commas, lost the dressing room. And it's funny because when he walked into the dressing room, when he done the press conference, swarthy, good-looking Mediterranean, I'm the special one, and he apparently said to the players, "You listen to what I say, we'll win the league." Right? Well, someone like that, and I'm talking. I spoke to him personally. I met him. He got in the. We had a 45-minute drive, or 40-minute drive, and when you talk to him, he's got, it sort of oozes out of him this belief and this theory, this
confidence.
Yeah, like it's like a thing of confidence where like it's almost as if like, well, you can't really question that. Do you know what I mean? And you know, I'm pretty sure. See, I think it gets to the stage. I'm just talking me personally. I'm only talking about me personally. I said it in my book. I just think when a manager gets to around about 55, he keeps taking jobs. Although Moyes would probably disprove it, he keeps taking jobs. I think it's borderline cheating because you're never going to be the young man that you were when you were as a coach and you was getting around every blade of grass and you were spotting every single mistake and spotting every single, not mistake, but every single coaching point because I should know better really. You don't coach the fault. Well, you do, you correct it. But by your coaching, you never highlight or coach the fault.
What do you mean? Sorry, what do you mean? But can you expand on that? What do you mean? That's interesting to me. What do you mean by that? Not coaching the fault, not identifying the fault to the actual individual.
No, you identify the fault. It's in your own nut. But what you do is you don't highlight. You don't go in and say to the player, "Well, you did this and you did this, you did, and this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong." You don't say that. What you do, you spot the fault. You just go in with the necessary coaching point, and you just take him straight from -1 to 10. You understand? You go from -1 with a mistake you make, and then you leapfrog 0, and you go straight to 10. You say, "This is the way to do it. Where, when, why, how." You know, I mean, this is where you do it. This is you get. So you're in an area of the field. This is when you do it. So it could be you've pulled players in, and it's about the timing of the pass. There's people that doubled and trebled up on you. Why you do it? Because obviously now you share the ball there and we've got an overload, and how you do it. So how you do it is you show a demo, right? Well, that ain't going to happen with 55, 56, 60-year-old managers. They can't. So what they're doing, they're relying on staff. This is part of the ongoing thing, Joe, that I'm going to have with Lord Hudson. You know what I mean? Because he says a manager brings it all together. Well, it's not. It's the relationship between player and coach. That's what brings it all together. And he says, yeah, but it's about appointing it. I said, well, what's the point of a technical director then, or a director of football? A director of football really is a manager in brackets. Do you understand? So we've got this ongoing thing where I happen to believe that a football club can do without a manager, but it can never do without a coach. But that's just my own beliefs. It's personal to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Really
interesting. I just think like you get to a certain age. Like he won the European Cup with Porto. He won the European Cup with Inter Milan. He won the thing with Real Madrid. He's won leagues in 4 different countries. Other than managing Portugal and getting them to win the European Championship or the World Cup, there's nothing left for him in the game. It gets to a stage now where, look, financially for a long, long time, he's been secure for life, right? I think it just gets to the stage where it's just maybe 50-50, right? It's like you need the drug. You need to satisfy that addiction. And then the other 50% is narcissism. They can't handle being out of the spotlight.
The ego, yeah.
Yeah, me, I didn't give a fuck one way or the other. I'll talk if I'm in the spotlight. I'll talk if I'm out. I'll stay at home and read a paper or read a book or drive me cab. Honestly and truly, different people. Although my wife did say, for different reasons, quite a few different reasons. One of them is a revelation that I might put in the second book. She said to me that you changed massively, dramatically, and I try to explain to her that in football you're dealing with a different animal. So you got to become part of that jungle. You got to become part of that mentality. And she said that I had to her, because she can't stand it in anyone. She can't stand it in anyone. She's castigated fucking consultants, surgeons. The most recent one was a Zoom meeting with an MP and a councillor. She cannot stand arrogance. She cannot stand it. And she said, you had this arrogance about you. So I suspect that, you know, like certain managers, they have to satisfy that part of their ego.
Yeah. I guess people in leadership roles have to have a bit of an ego to even want to be a leader. MPs probably have it, as the people in senior positions in business. I actually said we weren't going to talk about the Fulham nil, West Ham nil game, but I think West Ham is, you mentioned Moyes earlier. Personally, I think that's an interesting situation that's occurring at West Ham and the job that Moyes is doing, who's kind of the corollary to what you've been talking about, you know, in a sense. Go on.
He's had a lot of help with the circumstances, Joe. He's had a lot
because of COVID and no fans.
Yeah, and he would know as well as anyone, better than most, how to set a team up when you go away from home. Strikes me as a very detailed, very thorough man. When I saw the thing behind the scenes at Everton, and like the thing I had up 25, 26 years ago, so it sort of preempted it, but I thought I can relate to that, where he was getting people in his office every day, coaches, and he had a thing where he monitored daily his own players, and he monitored daily players, weekly players, monthly players that he wanted to recruit. Right. And he would have these daily meetings like I had with turned out to be an ungrateful scumbag with no manners and no gratitude. But I gave someone, a couple of people, their first job in professional football, and I would have them in the office, and we'd be monitoring the progress of players on a daily basis. So he strikes me as a very thorough, detailed man.
Coach or a manager?
Say again?
Would you say he's a coach or a manager?
I would say he's both. I would say he'd always, as a coach and manager, he'll always have the last say over the people that he's appointed. The
reason I asked that is because at Man United they said you have to be the manager. You can't get involved in the day-to-day. It's too, like, I think they used the analogy of Everton being a tugboat and Man United being a cruise liner. And he was obviously into the detail of everything of Everton, went to Man United and tried to do the same.
Yeah.
And it was too big. He couldn't deal with it. But that's the reason I asked that.
I don't think it was down to that. I think he would have been a fantastic successor to Ferguson, Sir Alex Ferguson. I think two things were slightly wrong there. One was second guessing, but on the surface, on the face of it, looking at it, although he's adamant it wasn't the case, I reckon that it was highly recommended / Ferguson's appointment. Right, straight away he's sort of under the cosh, under a little bit of pressure. I'm going to come to something you just said there, but the second thing is, I think the mistake he made was he got rid of too many people too quickly. Right, so now pushing on from that, I think I always remember something that Don Howe said, and I totally agree with it. Right. Some choose to utilise it, some don't. Some concentrate on the management side. But he said the best coach in the club has got to be or should be the manager, because you've got to have a focal point, like you need a focal point in your team. You've got to have a go-to guy. You've got to have a guy who's all over it, and he's like, I mean, again, if people are going to maybe hold their nose a little bit, but like I tried to be, and like I wanted to be a little bit radical and innovative, and I think your biggest asset as a coach is imagination. So if you're all over the stuff, the bits and pieces whereby you say, right, we can work on this, And then maybe if you want to play the manager more than the coach, you say to your staff, right, and then obviously you get your thing out. I used to do everything with pen and paper. In terms of diagrams and how I would want to set the pitch up or set the session up and the numbers involved, etc., and the keys that I'm looking for. That's your preparation, right? Well, you could do that to one of your coaches and say, look, Gun, what are you thinking of doing today? Like your coaches meeting at maybe 9 o'clock or your management meeting at 9 o'clock before the players get there at 10 o'clock, whatever time they have. And then maybe say, look, I want you to spend 20 minutes, half hour on this, right? And then leave the rest to them. But you're satisfying your own thing with regards to how you want it done and how you want it set up.
Yeah,
either that or you've got to be, and this might be part of the problem at somewhere like Arsenal. You know, you've got to be the top coach, the best coach in the club. So you basically do everything and take everything. But having been through it, that's not sustainable.
Well, yeah. It sounded as though that was the case with Moyes at Man United. But he's come back and he seems to be doing a brilliant job at West Ham. Their recruitment's been fantastic. I mean, you think how much they bought Kufau for and Soucek. I mean, something like 20 million for them too.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, two. And I couldn't agree more with regards to the way he wants to do things. And I think it's refreshing. And then it's almost what you said earlier about Jose. It's almost dinosaurish, where he's treating the job. Obviously, it won't be, but he's treating the job like it's going to be his job for life, and he's spending the money like it's his own money. And he's not all the things I said at Leyton Orient and in my book. He's spending the money like it's his own money. He's treating it like it's going to be his job for life. He's taking care of business on behalf of the club and growing the business. And he's veering away from short-termism.
Yeah.
He's talking about, obviously you've got to plan for the short term, but he's also talking about players who he wants around in the medium and the long term for the good of the club. And you knit that in at the level I was at. I said we knit that in with pillaging non-league and bringing players through the academy or through the centre of excellence, up through the youth team. They're the three things I was driving at. And you could call that a bit old school, but I think it's fantastic and it's refreshing.
Yeah, and it leads into your point or back to your point up that the game don't change. In a sense that, it's the same thing, and things that worked 30 years ago, there's no reason why they can't work now.
No, that's right. There's a reason. There's a reason certain things become tried and trusted and tradition. It's because they're tried and trusted.
Because they work.
And they work. And they say, right, we'll do that again. You don't. If you've got the consummate, like my favourite, and the best one I ever had was in America. If you've got the consummate dessert, lemon meringue, my favourite. Recipe, you don't change the recipe.
Yeah, it's a classic for a reason, isn't it? Yeah,
fuck it, yeah, but if you guess right, if I've just been handed, and it was, I'll never forget, I went in there, I took my mum away because she was poorly, we got another 3 years out of it. The surgeon gave her 8 months to live, and I swear blind, it was like the fact we went to the States and we spent 3 weeks in Tampa, right? And I remember we walked into this thing and they said, would you like some dessert? I said, I saw that on the counter, that thing on the counter. I said, it's my favourite lemon meringue. And they just went bump, bump, and they quartered it and they gave me a quarter of the pie. It's the biggest portion you've ever seen in your life. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying, the point being, Joe, if you've got the perfect recipe and that was just like the best I've ever tasted, well, you don't
mess about with it. No,
yeah,
you don't.
You use the same recipe.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot now. Who's going to finish in the top 4 and who's going to get relegated?
Well, obviously, like I've been proved right with West Brom. I'm not changing my mind now. Obviously, I've been proved right with Fulham. I'm not changing my mind now. And I did say that, and I'm going back to maybe the 3rd or 4th Football Uncensored podcast when you was filming me, Don and Lord Hudson. I said that Sheffield United could quite well suffer from second season syndrome. And the reasons I gave were Chris Wilder, by and large, he's got the same core element to the side with regards to the back and the midfield. He had the kid on loan from Man United, who I think should have been a permanent fixture 18 months ago for Man United. And I said, when someone asked me over the weekend, that De Gea should have been sold ages ago, especially after his recent errors. But the bottom line is, you can't keep expecting Chris Wilder, who I think he's fantastic and I love him to death. And I've never met the guy and don't know the guy, but he's a bit of me in terms of the way he comes across. When you've got no real goals in the side and it brings pressure to bear on your back four, or in his case, back five, when he's played it, and it's a recipe for disaster. And he can't keep being expected to pull rabbits out of that. So I said they might suffer from second season syndrome. And I honestly can't see, unless they have a meltdown, Newcastle, I think Brighton will be all right. Unless Newcastle have a meltdown, who I think they're just above Brighton, or just below.
They're just below Brighton, and Burnley are below Newcastle.
And then Burnley are below, and then Burnley, right? Less than one of those three have an absolute meltdown. I think I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty sure. I think I'm right in saying they're the three that I predicted.
And Burnley are 8 points clear of Fulham, which is a big gap, isn't it? You know, they're just.
Someone said, Joe, right? Because it's brilliant the way you throw these little things in, and it's like.
Cheers, John. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no. It's like you like this firework. I'm the firework. You throw a little thing, and I go, yep, like that. Because someone said to me today, do you think they can get out of it? And I said, no chance. Because you're asking them to listen. He's got to talk like he spoke, Scott Parker, and I feel sorry for him, right? Because he's still. People have got to understand this, right? He's a young up and coming English coach / manager, right? And he took it on. And he got him promoted. But I still truly believe in his defence that he's dealing with the aftermath of all the money wasted previously. 120, 130, 140 million. They bought a cacophony of players, 9, 10, 11 players. They didn't gel, and then they just went down. And he's had to come in and clear up all that mess, right? And I look at some of their back players, and I'm going to be brutal. Like I've been brutal before. I'm going to say the same thing as I said before. I've seen better defenders in non-league. The bottom line is he's got to say something positive. He's got to talk it up. But you're asking Fulham. I said, look, the answer is quite simple, right? You're asking Fulham to do something in the second half of the season that they've showed absolutely no way, shape or form or inclination that they did in the first half of the season. Right? You understand? They've got to win 9 from 16. It ain't going to happen.
No.
It is not going to happen. I don't care what Scott Parker says. He can be ordained. He can go and get holy water from the fucking Vatican, or from the Vatican, or from the what's the other gaff in France. It ain't going to happen. He ain't going to get 9 wins in the last 16. If he does, I'll show my arse in Harrods.
All right, you've heard it here. You've heard it here first, everyone. Let's cheer for Scott Parker.
They'll close it down. They'll close it down. They'll close it down.
Yeah, it's a good job. We're on lockdown. All right, so top 4 then.
I disagree because you never give up, and it's never over until it's over. But I've got a sneaky feeling that City might just have too much and hold on. I think the top two are going to be the Manchester clubs. I think it'll be Chelsea third, and I think it will be Liverpool fourth. I nearly said Leicester, but I just don't think they've got enough in their locker. They're a good team. They're a good team. They're a well-organised team. They're a very tactical team. They've got good individuals, but I just think they might fall short, and they'll probably be fifth.
Fair enough. So, sort of status quo. Although Man United have, done well to finish second, but ultimately the West Hams, the Evertons, the Spurs, the Villas can't break into that top 4.
Well, look, maybe he won me over and he charmed me a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it was because he was a good tipper. I don't know. But I'm looking at what someone said to me the other day on social media, and they're right. In defence of Jose a little bit, there's a couple of common denominators with regards to the failures of previous Spurs managers. And he went all the way back to the League Cup under George Graham. And, AVB, Martin Yole, Jose, Pochettino in particular. The Messiah. I mean, he was there for 5-6 seasons. You know what I mean? And he couldn't win a sack race. Or like egg and spoon race, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, the common denominator is either the hierarchy or the mentality of the players. And I think he's really tried his best to change the mentality of the players. And it's a little bit, at one end, a little bit leery and showboaty, like it's always been. And at the other end, it's been since my day, which were the Halcyon days. And I bumped into him just before Christmas, an ex-playing colleague of mine. We came through the ranks together. We had all our representative honours together. And he went one way when Chelsea released him. He tells a different story. And I went the other and stayed at Chelsea. That's Paul Miller. The Halcyon days of a decent, solid centre-back partnership with Roberts and Miller. And the back four. Chrissy Houghton was one of them. And a decent goalkeeper, Ray Clements. Because I think Lloris has been off the ball for a long time now. I think he should have been let go ages ago. So Jose, really, he's been on hiding to nothing. He's got he inherited an aging back five, which I said they're three seasons past their sell-by date. A couple of them are still hanging on. The other one's not up to it. He's got like a B-list left back. He's got a B-list right back in terms of football IQ and the football intelligence. He's got no creativity in midfield. So he's gone, okay, we'll make sure we're at the breakdown. And then we'll play Harry and Son together. And hopefully that can pull another rabbit out the hat. Well, you can't. Yeah, they keep relying on them and it can't happen. Right? Well, this ties in, Joe, with something I said to someone over the weekend about De Gea. What do you think about De Gea? And they showed me a couple of mistakes he'd done. I said, yeah, I've seen him on the telly. I've seen him on Match of the Day. I don't subscribe to BT or Sky. I can't afford it. But I said, like, I've seen him on Match of the Day. I said, I'm a great believer in, and this is what ties in with Lord Hudson, right? If you are a manager and you're a manager who's worth your salt, and you're a manager who knows your stuff, and you're a manager who's working in the best interest of the club, and you're a manager who's trying to protect your own job and your staff, you've basically, what I've always said, you've got to sell players when they're at 5 to 12, 12 o'clock or 5 past 12, right? So let's say both fans are on 12, that's the peak.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And there in the past have been some very good managers who they sell players just as it's going tick, 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 tick. And I've watched and I've stored it and I've memorised it. And they've sold the player at 5 to 12 for mega money just before he reaches his peak, right? So they get mega money off of the right club because he's at his peak. And then every now and again you get someone who's really clever and a good salesman before agents even existed. They manage to sell them at 4 or 5 minutes past 12, just as they're going past their peak. And then they're on their way down the other side of the clock. You understand what I mean? That's the secret, right? And then like with De Gea, I said he should have been sold 18 months ago. And what I'll do now, listen, I'll just go, I'll cut my losses now. If he's going to take advice from Phelan, and if he's going to let Carrick do the coaching with a couple of other coaches, and then give them both his observations and advice and say, no, but I'm the boss, this is how I want it done, and I'm playing the manager, what he's got to do now, he's got to recruit, and he's got to stick Henderson in and stick with him and say, you are my number one, you're my goalkeeper, come hell or high water. If you make a Rick, please don't, I hope you don't, but if you make a Rick, I'm going to back you because I believe in you. Because you're young up and coming talent for too long now. It's time you started to make a reputation of your own, right? And then I think De Gea should have been sold for multi millions when he wanted to go to Real Madrid. That's my belief on how the football thing works. It's about conveyor belt. It's about turnover.
Speaking of players leaving, big players leaving a club, should Kane leave Spurs?
I can only say what I think, and I can only tell you what I said to his dad. And because of lockdown, because of different circumstances, because of people's different personal lives, because of a few games on the other side of the family, I ain't seen him for a long time. Actually, it's probably a couple of years now. We've had a year of lockdown, and then before that there was these goings on, which I won't go into. I always see him at socials and family gatherings and family parties and family dinners and over Christmases. And I said to him, if you're someone to win anything, I said, I was told once upon a time that the game's about money and medals. So I said, I'm not going to ask what he's on. I know you won't tell me what he's on because he's got very old school values. and they're a tight-knit firm. But so like his mum takes care of one aspect of Harry's thing, his dad takes care of another aspect, and his brother takes care of another aspect. And yeah, they're a very well organised, tight-knit firm. I just said my opinion for what it's worth. We were talking football, and he said, "What about you getting back in? Would it ever happen? Would you fancy it? Did this and that?" And I said, "Look, you're just saying it for the sake of conversation. So for the sake of conversation, I'll give you an answer." I said, "But I've got strong opinions on stuff." And I said what I said. The game's about money and medals. I said, "Your son's not going to win anything at Spurs," although I've contradicted myself this year and said they'll win the League Cup. But I said, if he wants to go and he wants to start challenging for the Champions League and I said he could do worse than go, and I named a couple of clubs. And then he went, "Well, that wouldn't happen. He'd never go there," because one of them was Chelsea. I said, "My old firm." He definitely wouldn't go to like basically the sworn enemy of Spurs, another London club or even another club in the Premier League. And he told me a club that he could have gone to. So I'm going back, 3.5 years, and so he said to me he could have gone to so-and-so 2.5 years ago. So 6 years ago, he could have gone to a club, and he turned it down to stay at Spurs.
Abroad? So said, was that abroad?
No, it wasn't abroad, no.
Oh.
No, it wasn't abroad. No, it wasn't abroad. He said he turned them down because he wanted to stay at Spurs. I said, well, this is the other thing. I said, I don't know the ins and outs, the whys and wherefores, and I don't want to know. And if I did want to know, you probably wouldn't tell me. But I said, I reckon he's probably his market value. He's probably getting paid 50 grand less than what he should be a week at Spurs. That's just my perception based on how they run things. And that was it. You know what I mean? So I think like the likes of, unless you add to them, you've got these like world class talents. He's a world-class finisher. And I think he's a world-class centre forward, but he's not a world-class forward. He's got, I think there's a subtle difference. He's got most of the package. He's as close as you're going to get to it. And what you've got to do, you've got to add to that. I don't understand. It defeats the purpose of what Levy and this Lewis has charged him to do. It defeats the purpose. It completely defeats the purpose. What you've got to do, you've got to add to your as near as damn it world-class players to try and achieve something.
Which, by the way, they got for free. They got Kane. They didn't have to go out and spend 100 mil on Kane.
That's right.
It's a free asset that's just been handed to him on a plate. I know they've obviously, he's come through the ranks and they've developed him, but that's even more reason to spend big to a company.
Yeah, I just think for all the credit and all the plaudits that he's had with regards to being, in inverted commas, a tough negotiator, I think there's so many things that he's done asked about face and made so many wrong decisions. It's unbelievable. Because now you're talking about that asset that's come through the ranks. That asset now is diminishing. With regards to his track record recently for injuries, with regards to his age, that asset is diminishing. So now it's make or break. So Harry's going to look back on a wasted career in terms of medals, right? Because he ain't going to win anything with England either. Right, he's going to look back on a wasted career with regards to medals, but he's got a nice few quid, right? So okay, that's fine. If that's how you, but he strikes me as a winner. I always say if I'm talking to someone like Harry, and I've never met him, and his dad Pat said it'd be lovely one day if you could. If I'm talking to him, I'll just say like, looking at you, my perception of you is quite simple. I can see the boy in the man. I can see him playing, and I can see him back where he started when he was playing it for the love. When you're playing it for the love, and you're winning things with your Sunday side, right? That's the thing that helps nurture youngsters. Well, why should you, when you get to 28, why should you be any different? Why should it be about Range Rovers and mansions? Do you know what I mean? And he strikes me, it's no different to what he was as a kid, which I think is massive. It's massive. It's a massive asset.
Yeah.
And it'd just be a shame for me to see him end up with no medals, apart from maybe a League Cup this year, which I predicted.
So the answer is he should leave.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm sorry, Joe. I apologise. Yeah. Sure.
No.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. It ties in with. It ties in with. He's answerable to Levy. Levy's answerable to Lewis. Well. They're making it all. I'm sorry, but they're making it all about the stadium now. They're making it all about the second sport. They're making it about American football. I mean, what the fuck is that about? Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's because of like the East End overspill went to Essex, the North London overspill, which I was part of North London for 40 odd years. It took me 41 years to get out of there. I was round the corner from the ground. Well, they all went to Hertfordshire. Well, maybe it's all to do with that. Do you know what I mean? And they want to keep the revenue up with regards to it being the home of American football in the United Kingdom, right? Well, you're taking your attention away. You're taking your focus away from what started it all. And I just think, like I said, I think he's made so many bad decisions with regards to purchases, if it is to be attributed to Daniel Levy. I mean, look at the money they spunk from Bale. They got 85 million for Bale, whatever it was, 100 million euros, wasted it on 7 players. I think out of them 7 players, 1, maybe 2 were semi-decent, and they've done all right for the club. So
yeah,
5...
Anthony Eriksson, really. I mean, Lamella's the only one left, but he hasn't really done much, has he, to be fair?
Right, so the other 5, you've spunked your money. Then what do? They, in the twilight of his career, they get him back, right, Bale. We don't know the financial arrangements, but I should imagine his wages are massively eating into that initial transfer fee they got for him. Well, that ain't good business. And then you look at the thing like Grealish, they could have got for 25 million when Villa were in the Championship. What are you thinking? What are you doing when you've got like people who can get box to box and cover every blade of grass and like whack people up in the air, and they're built like boxing cruiserweights, but they couldn't thread a pass if their life depended on it. You know what I mean? So what's he worth now? Grealish, 60, 70?
Oh, more, I'd say.
Okay. More. Well, not if you're dealing with me. I'll give you 60, take it or leave it. I'll move on to the next one.
All right, leave it then. All right then. Well, I've probably, before we go, I should probably say, remind everyone that is it the 28th anniversary of a certain documentary that
26th.
26th.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So kind of you to bring it up.
I know Everett did say 28. Sorry.
I'll tell you what the plus side was. I was interacting all day yesterday on Twitter. I got a lot of new followers. I think I got another 100 new followers on Twitter because they've all been made aware of it. And someone said, like, your tagline this morning must have been going ballistic. You know what I mean? And at the end of it, I just said, like, night all. This was about 25-1 this morning. Night all. I said it's been an emotional day because I'm still trying to get over Sam Allardyce taking a 1-0 lead and retreating from 4-4-2 to 4-5-1. And look, because that was the game. That was the game they were showing
Blackpool,
when I was going.
Yeah,
Blackpool home. Yeah. Whatever happened to him?
Yeah, well, that's it. Mind you,
listen, that's the dividing line. That's the dividing line. That's the dividing line. Trust me.
What's that film with Gwyneth Paltrow? Sliding Doors. Yeah. Oh dear.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, Wilder was interviewed before the game against Chelsea yesterday, and they asked him about tactics and whatnot. And he said, I was talking to Sam in the week, Allardyce, and he said, we both agreed that the manager's job's overrated, or the manager's job is overplayed. Our control, we don't have as much control as people think.
Well,
Which I thought was a strange thing to say.
Well, it ain't strange really, because it's like David Attenborough, isn't it? So talking about the planet and everyone saving the planet. And I've said to him on Twitter, it's easy for you to fucking say after you've had your life, you're 90 whatever, 94, 95, 96. Never everybody else has got to walk and cycle everywhere after you flying around the world so you can lay in the grass and let a gorilla scratch your fucking head. Do you know what I mean? It's easy to say for Allardyce and Wilder, like especially Allardyce, he's caked, and he's multi-millionaire.
Yeah. Well,
so he can say it's overplayed and overrated. Yeah. Well, the other way to look at it is what Dario Gradi said to me, although it wasn't that much of a self-fulfilling prophecy. He said, if you get a chance to be a coach or a manager, always choose coach. He said, because there's more coaches' jobs than managers' jobs, and you'll always get work as a coach. I mean, that worked for a little while as a coach educator, but once I got shit on by the FA and they said, like, you got to say thanks for the hat, I thought it was time to move on. Yeah, it was time to move on.
Well, I'll never say that to you, John. And I love these chats, and I hope everyone else does. And it'd be great to hear from all our subscribers on YouTube and your followers on Twitter. And good to get your feedback. And hopefully you enjoyed the show. I think that's a good time for us to say goodbye to everyone, John.
We'll do another one soon. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Next week. I'll be back rocking and rolling next week. So
rocking and rolling next week. Yeah.
All right. Sweet. All right, everyone. Well, it's goodbye from me.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.
Goodbye from John. All the best. Cheers.
Cheers.